Number 1. The Woman in the Middle of Nowhere. I grew up in a small town and lived out in the country. My mom and I were coming home from Walmart late one night and decided to take the back way home. I still have my learner's permit, so I wanted to take a road with less traffic. Anyone who has ever lived or been to the country knows how creepy these roads can be at night. I was going around a curve right before a one-lane bridge, so I slowed down in case I had to stop. Out of nowhere, this woman jumps in front of me to the driver's side of my car and starts pounding on the hood. Her mouth was moving, but I couldn't make out what she was saying. My mom started freaking out and told me not to stop and just keep driving. I kept going and we both looked back to see where she was and no one was there. To this day, my mom and I still remember it clearly. Turns out there is apparently a legend about a woman who died around the bridge and supposedly can be seen sometimes late at night. I get goosebumps just thinking about it. Number 2. Who turned the radio on? When I was about 10 or 12. I really don't remember. I had an odd experience. At one time, I was sharing a room with my sister. We had lofted beds and I slept on the top bunk. We had the stereo, and when you would press the button to turn it on, it would click and a red light would pop up. Our beds are on one side of the room and the stereo was on a desk on the opposite side. And one night I was woken up by the click sound that the stereo makes when the power button is pressed. I recognized the sound and sat up in my bed. I looked over at the stereo and the light blinks on. I look at my sister and she is fast asleep. Her bed was under mine but perpendicular so I could see the top half of her bed from my bed. The stereo was playing that white noise sound that it makes when it isn't on a specific station. Suddenly, I can hear someone saying, "Away," coming from the stereo. It's one word, "Away." At first, it started off softly, gradually getting louder until it became a yell. "Away, away, away." It took about 10 to 15 seconds probably to build up the yell, and then it died back down to a whisper. "Away." I thought this was a dream. I was frozen out of fear. I thought this had to be imagination. And I tried telling myself that during the whole thing. I had almost convinced myself of it until it stopped. After the voice died away, the stereo went back to static. Then I heard the familiar click, and the light turned off. I was positive I wasn't dreaming. The ending click. I stared at the stereo for a few more moments, too freaked to move, looked back at my sister and saw she was still asleep, and finally laid back in bed, covered myself with sheets, and willed myself back to sleep. I considered myself a rational person, but had no rational explanation for this freakiest thing that has ever happened to me. Number 3. This is why you should never let anyone know where your spare key is. I was 17, still living in my parents' house. Everyone was away on a Friday night, so I had a few friends over. We smoked a little. We were chilling in the basement, playing video games. 2 of my friends ran upstairs to get some snacks out of the pantry. After a few seconds, they came running down the steps yelling my name. They said somebody pulled into my driveway. I can hear the dogs freaking out. I panic, thinking my parents are home, and I scrambled to hide the weed and pipe we had sitting next to the back door. I walked up steps, looked out the window. There was no car in the driveway, but my dog was still freaking out. I went outside to see if anyone was out there. It was late, almost midnight, and cold. I was barefoot and poorly dressed. I walked around my house, shivering and nervous, and found nothing. I went back inside, took my dogs down to the basement with me to try and relax. Maybe 20 minutes later, we hear a huge crashing sound. It sounded like something had exploded right in front of my house. We ran outside through the back door and saw a car wrapped around a tree right by the road in my neighbor's front yard. My dog started freaking out again. It was my brother's car. My brother had gone with my parents to my aunt's and left his car in the garage. I ran to look inside. There's nobody in it. I called my brother immediately, freaking out. When he answered the phone, I was both relieved and confused. He instructed me to call the police. He came home, the police came and looked around. They took statements from everybody. We hid the fact that we were pretty high, as the tow truck was pulling my brother's car out from the front yard. The police received a call about a breakdown in the street. They left a police officer with us, and the rest left to respond to the call.
It turns out that a group of people were going through my neighborhood, breaking into houses and stealing cars out of the garages. I was in the house when the burglar stole my brother's car. I might have even walked right past him at one point. When they caught up to the group, one of the guys was injured as if he had been in a car wreck. He was the one who had broken into my house. I knew him. He had graduated from my high school when I was a freshman. He had house sat for us. He knew where the spare keys were. He knew that if one of us was home, the door would be unlocked, and he waited until it was just me, alone, in the house. It wasn't paranormal, but it still keeps me out to this day. That guy had waited for myself or any other family members to be alone in the house and had broken in. It scared me to think that I was so completely unaware of my surroundings back then that I would have let the guy get the drop on me if he had hostile intentions. It makes me sick that somebody we had trusted to stay in our house while we were gone would completely be back a couple years later and do something like that. If you guys have been wondering what I look like in real life, please go follow me on Instagram at Nexus Core Productions. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked, give this video a thumbs up. If you didn't, you guys know what to do. And if you have any scary stories of yourself, please leave them down in the comments below. I would love to read them. Nexus Core Gaming, signing off. 3, 2, 1.